Just 28 days away from North America 2026. And for our Scoreline 48 Nations, we are previewing the Netherlands, a historic national team that unfortunately haven't had a ton of success winning at the biggest stage. The team has been so close. They're making their 12th appearance at this big stage. Three-time finalists have featured legends of the game, such as Cruyff, Gullit, and Van Basten, Bergkamp as well at the World Cup. You see some of those absolute stars that have featured for this team. The Flying Dutchmen have the most final appearances of any country without a World Cup title. If you remember, in their last appearance, they lost that heartbreaker to eventual World Cup winners Argentina in 2022. This World Cup could be now or never for a veteran squad led by Liverpool legend Virgil Van Djik and the country's all-time leading goal scorer in Memphis Depay. Virgil Van Djik leading the team as the captain. Can this squad change the narrative and deliver a first ever World Cup? We take a look here. We see always the bridesmaid, because with all of the history that they've had, they still have not been able to lift the most important trophy in the sport. Memphis Depay featuring again for this team as the all-time leading goal scorer, 52 goals in 102 appearances with the national team. In this team, again, so much history. Talk about a lot of the modern game of football comes from that Netherlands national team. Why haven't they been able to lift the World Cup?
I honestly don't know why they haven't been able to do it. One of my favourite teams to ever watch was that 1988 successful squad, obviously in the European Championships. They were phenomenal. Van Basten, Rudtula, I mean, you could go on with the names. And then it continued, obviously, through 1990, where they had a little bit of a lack of a discipline. In 1990, they went out in the round of 16. You remember the Rijkaard incident that they took place. But obviously, some of the players that they've come through, you know, I know Rudtula personally, and of course, he's an absolute legend. Van Basten was one of the world's greatest players ever to play, unfortunately, picked up a bad injury. And then, of course, you look at this recent generation that were so close in 2010 to actually winning the World Cup. Yep. In many ways, they probably should have won it. It was a boring Spain team, in my opinion, that actually went on to win it. And actually, if you look at what happened in the next World Cup, I see you shaking your head there. But that next World Cup, this Netherlands side took care of business against Spain. Do you remember the game I'm talking about? 5-1 with a flying header coming in from Van Persie. One of the most iconic goals you have ever seen. And then, obviously, in Qatar, they were a little bit lucky against your Argentinian squad. Just going to throw that out there. That was a great game. That was one of the best games of the tournament, though. Yeah, and I think there was a very aggressive game that maybe the discipline caught up with the Dutch side as well. They lost their concentration. And unfortunately, there was a little genius playing in that game that managed to swing the game in one side's favour, and it wasn't the Dutch. I'm a big fan of Dutch football, always have been. Why? 4-4-2. Love it. Where did it come from? It came from the Dutch. It's total football, all the way back to the Ajax system of old. But it's changed now. Domestically, it's not as entertaining, as exciting with the young players coming up through the ranks. There's a lot more foreigners coming into the league. Therefore, the Dutch players have somewhat disappeared. And I think that's hurting this group that they have right now. A lot of experienced players in this group, you will notice, that will potentially make the final roster for the World Cup. Not many youngsters coming through to shout about. And I think that's a problem for Dutch football going forward. But this group still got talent.
It has a lot of talent. It is a problem for Dutch football going forward because that's been kind of the base of the way they play. A lot of young players coming through the system, a lot of very talented players. But you would say, would you agree, that the level of this team, at least on paper, has lessened since the last World Cup in the last 4 years?
Well, there's no doubt that it's definitely been a little bit less attractive. They've obviously been not as exciting to watch. A lot of their games have been a bit frustrating. They qualified very easily, I think, through the qualification process. If you look at how much quality they've got in the roster trying to get into the starting 11, it's competitive, and these names don't lie. I mean, there are a number of good players to look forward to playing, and of course, one right now who's found his form is probably Donyell Malen, more so than anyone else. He's the one I'm probably looking forward to playing the most. You've got Gakpo doing business in England, not necessarily as consistent as people would like. Reinders also inconsistently, not necessarily locked down a place at City. And you could say the same with De Jong picking up injuries. Gravenberch obviously been a bit frustrating. Depay's recently picked up an injury as well, playing in Brazil. He hasn't played since March. So there's a number of concerns that I'll talk about in just a minute. But the one player who's red hot right now is Donyell Malen. He is in form for Roma, and I actually think it's kind of crazy. This guy went away from Aston Villa to Italian football to get minutes to play. He's put Roma with a chance of getting into the Champions League. His goals, let me break it down for you. 13 goals in Serie A from 16 matches, which is absolutely insane. 14 goals in 18 games since he's arrived at Roma. Oh, by the way, he scored 7 goals in 29 for Aston Villa as well before he made the move. The guy's on form, he's red hot.
It was funny, when that move happens, I was kind of questioning Aston Villa. Because yes, they have Ollie Watkins, but he was in bad form at the moment. And Donyell Malen was scoring goals, so I was shocked that they even let him go. He got to Roma, and now has Roma potentially on the verge of another Champions League spot.
Yes.
If Milan continue to stumble the way they do. He's been a fantastic signing for Roma, but when you talk about signings in January, this worked out for club, but also for the player, because now, in my opinion, we put up that 11 for the Netherlands, Depay leading the line. My opinion, I think it needs to be Donyell Malen at that position and Depay coming off the bench, just based on form for this season and just, I'm sorry, at this point, just flat out talent.
I think it will be, especially if Depay doesn't get back to full fitness. But also, let's not forget his age, right? He's getting up there, so he's not going to be able to play every single game. So I think Donyell Malen will get his opportunity in that position as well. But you've also got Wout Weghorst competing for it, someone who can step up, got a great deal of experience. I mean, he's played for more clubs than anyone else who's actually competed. And obviously, up top is a bit competitive. I think Brian Brobby's one who's exciting. He's had a good season, Brian Brobby, by the way. Very, very impressive getting into the Prem and doing the business that he's done. Cody Gakpo, thoughts on him? Exactly my thoughts.
Yeah, exactly. Inconsistent, exactly. Just quiet. He's inconsistent. He has talent. He has pace. He can do a job on that left wing. I just haven't seen that consistency to fully trust him as far as a key attacker in a national team.
If you look at what they've got going forward, obviously Malen can play out wide on the wing, so can Depay. Koopmeiners can do that position. Gakpo can do that. He does it for Liverpool. Noah Lang can step into that position, probably from an attacking midfield point of view. I think Coleman's got the life of luxury to be able to choose from. What a great attacking midfield as well. Tijani Reinders, Koopmeiners can play there. Frankie de Jong, obviously in midfield. Valente, another one that can step in and do that role. I mean, in central midfield, they've got a battle as well, but defensively is where they're probably most experienced.
Yes.
So I'm really intrigued to see how they handle this, but they are in with an incredibly tough group. Their odds to win the group, they're clear favourites. They're -120 to win it, so they're clear favourites. But this World Cup, that is a group I don't think the Dutch will be too thrilled about because it's very competitive.
Yeah, that's a group that I think a lot of things can go in a lot of different directions.
Yeah.
And it's a group that I don't think you can really... Yes, they're the favourites. I wouldn't be shocked if they don't win the group, though.
I think we'll find out a lot about Dutch football this World Cup. Because they could, because of the talent we just showed you there, and obviously what we've been discussing, they could have a very successful campaign if every player is absolutely balling out. But the problem is, a lot of those players have injury concerns or inconsistency. That's a problem I see.
So, for them to have that success, what are the 3 keys that we need to see for them to have success in this World Cup? Off keys, excuse me.
Yeah, no, don't worry about it because, you know, I'm Mr. Negative, so I'm going to go for the off keys rather than the on keys. So thanks for teeing me up perfectly there. This is the group of, I'm a little bit concerned. It's not the group of death I'm going for. I actually think they're in with a chance of winning the group, but they're going up against a Japan side who's incredibly creative and dangerous, great roster, well organised, huge discipline and talent. They know how to score goals, they know how to create goals, and they run like no other nation. Sweden, lucky to get in there, happy to be there, but worried about what they've got offensively. What happens if Ishak starts banging the goals in? What happens if Gyökeres scores goals for fun like we know he can? They've got some proper players and a very good coach. The Englishman obviously on the bench will be impressive. Tunisia don't lose many games. They draw a lot of games. They do win the occasional game, but they don't lose a lot of games, and they've got some talent as well. Injury is a massive concern for me. Obviously, Xavi Simons, the most one that's been headlined. That's a big disappointment. Jerdy Shelton, another player who went out with an ACL injury, is a huge disappointment as well. So I'm really concerned about that. The inconsistency with other players as well. You can go to Frankie de Jong, obviously not necessarily playing every game this season because of injury concerns. So I'm slightly concerned about him. And then, of course, Jurien Timber. Where is he? Is he going to come back before the end of the season? Is he waiting for the World Cup? I don't know. But these inconsistencies are largely concerning to me. So I'm really, really concerned. Now, obviously, we talked about the mental weakness. Where is it with this group? Because some of the best players in world football struggled to win a World Cup with the Dutch national team. You could go back to my generation, which I loved. The Ruud Gullits and Van Basten's. For me, Van Basten was one of the greatest players I ever saw. And I was lucky enough to watch him play. People forget he won 3 Ballon d'Ors. But what a talented group that was that didn't win it. What about this group? Can they come together? Can they be competitive? Where's that mental weakness? Where's that mental strength? I think this group sometimes just needs to bring themselves together. And if you have team chemistry, which I think the Dutch always have a tendency to have because of their terrific supporters, they're a unit. But where is their mentality? Do they actually believe they can win a World Cup? I highly doubt it.
It'll be interesting to watch for sure with this Netherlands side moving into the World Cup this summer. 48 nations here on Scoreline.